Happy Monday, Giants fans. We are 1 week closer to the draft. Today, we are going to continue on what we talked about on Friday. And if you did not watch that video, feel free to go back and check it out. But we are going to talk about the players who had 2 meetings with the Giants so far, whether it was a top 30 visit, a pro day, a combine, it doesn't really matter. What it does matter is that the Giants have already met with 6 players twice so far. So on Friday, we went through the first 3, which one of them was Jeremiah Love. And today we're going to go through the next 3. So we are going to start with one of my favorite players, actually, is Ohio State wide receiver Carnell Tate. Now, I am a big fan of Carnell Tate. I think he's an incredibly impressive wide receiver. He did not have a single drop. Not one drop last year, which if you're a Giants fan, that's like winning the lottery. We haven't seen anything like that in years. Do I think the Giants are going to pick a wide receiver at 5? No, I don't. It just does not strike me as something that John Harbaugh is going to do. However, the fact that the Giants met with him twice means that we need to talk about him. So the Giants met with him on 2 separate occasions. So one of them was during the scouting combine, and this is the quote from Carnell Tate about that meeting. Quote, "I came from playing with another receiver. To go out there and play along another receiver, it would be a great opportunity, especially playing in New York, big showcase. I'd love to go out there and play in New York," end quote. Now, for those of you who don't really know much about Ohio State or Carnell Tate or have no idea what he's talking about, he played alongside wide receiver Jeremiah Smith, who is an unbelievable football player, but he's only a sophomore, so he did not declare for the draft. So when Carnell Tate is saying, "I came from playing with another receiver," that's what he means. He basically meant that he was the 1A or the number 2 on Ohio State's offense behind basically Jeremiah Smith, but he still was extremely productive throughout his time at Ohio State. And if he did get drafted to the Giants, he would, of course, be playing alongside none other than Malik Neighbors. So when he's referencing other wide receivers, that's what he's talking about. Now, the other time when the Giants met with him was during a top 30 visit. And if there's one thing we know about Joe Schoen, it's that he loves to draft a player that he had a top 30 visit with. So real quick, I'll tell you guys the players that they had top 30 visits with, just so maybe on draft night, this will ring a bell like, oh shit, I knew that already. Okay, so here we go. Jeremiah Love, Casey Concepcion, Travis Burke, Ted Hurst, Carnell Tate, Thaddeus Dixon, Christian Miller, Spencer Fano, and Arvell Reese. Now, we also are going to talk about Arvell Reese today, but let's talk about Carnell Tate first. So here's what you need to know about him. He's 6'2", 192 pounds, originally from Chicago, but of course went to Ohio State. His stats for the 2025 season, he had 51 receptions for 875 yards, 9 receiving touchdowns, and his average reception was 17.2 yards per catch. So obviously very impressive wide receiver. And again, he wasn't even the wide receiver 1. Jeremiah Smith was wide receiver 1, and he still had obviously a very productive season. So he kind of strikes me as like similar in the sense of Isaiah Likely, right? Because Isaiah Likely was never tight end 1 when he was with the Ravens because of Mark Andrews. So now Isaiah Likely is obviously going to get a lot more targets and whatnot. But I think it's kind of a similar situation, right? Where like, if you draft Carnell Tate, he's in most scenarios maybe a wide receiver 1. If he comes to the Giants, he's 1A behind Malik Neighbors, right? But you still know you're going to get a lot of production out of him. So his hands are 10 1/4, which is 85th percentile, and his arm length is 31 3/4, which is 46th percentile. His 40 time was a 4.53. Now, I know some people are going to be up in arms over the speed thing. I know we've talked about this before, that like speed isn't anything. Let's talk about Jalen Hyatt, So I'm not that worried about it. And again, I think the Giants having 2 meetings with him, one of them being a top 30 visit and the other one being at the combine, proves to me that they're not all that worried about the speed either. Again, it doesn't mean they're going to draft him at 5, but you know what I mean. So let's talk about some of his strengths. Excellent at running routes. He's great with selling the vertical, great tempo, and then he can snap off on a comeback that leaves the defensive back grabbing air. He's got a real craft to his game. And again, the guy didn't drop a ball, okay? Not a single drop. That is unbelievable. Unbelievable. Excellent against zone coverage. He's good at finding the soft spot. He can sit down when he needs to, drifts when the quarterback scrambles, and he just understands the spacing at a pro level already. Something else, his big play jump in 2025 was real. He had 5 touchdowns of 40 plus yards. 5 touchdowns of 40 plus yards. And again, he was not the wide receiver 1 at Ohio State. Jeremiah Smith was. So this guy had an unbelievable season, obviously, for Ohio State. He's got very natural hands. He's got unbelievable catch potential. He catches literally everything. He's good with his hand, good with bringing his body in. He had a 5.4% drop rate. Literally nothing. Absolutely nothing. So the guy's a stud. I also like this bullet point. This is from NFL Draft Buzz. High points the football like he owns the air. Corners can be in perfect position and it doesn't matter. He times his leap, extends those long arms, and rips it away from defenders. Great with a contested catch radius. And he is the best in the class at coming back to underthrown balls. I just know we have seen Wan'Dale Robinson not be that good at that. So again, a high point here for Carnell Tate. Just an overall great wide receiver. When you talk about weapons, someone who's going to help out Jackson Dart. I know we've talked a lot about Jeremiah Love and what he brings to the table, but Carnell Tate also would be a massive weapon and a huge upgrade next to Malik Neighbors to also help out the quarterback. So things to keep in mind here. But let's go ahead and move along to Makai Lemon. He is another player, another wide receiver specifically that the Giants have had 2 meetings with. So let's go ahead and talk about Makai Lemon because he met with the Giants during the combine. And this was the quote from him, quote, "I met with them and it would be a huge blessing. Those guys are young guys. They're great players. So to be alongside with them, it would be cool," end quote. Then he also met with the Giants during their USC's Pro Day. Now, one thing I want to say about Makai Lemon is there was a lot of talk coming out of the combine that he absolutely bombed his interviews. But the thing that pisses me off about this is that no one ever says anything. Like, no one gives any type of reason. Like, I think I heard he was maybe a little sassy. What the hell does that mean? Like, I want to hear things like, we asked him to come up with his favorite play and like he couldn't come up with anything good. He gave us like a single route. He doesn't seem like he has a great football IQ because he couldn't be on top of things quickly. Like, what does sassy mean? I mean, I know what it means, but like, is that supposed to be wildly detrimental? And then the Giants had another meeting with him after the combine at a pro day. So I'm really curious about that because I'm curious if their interview with him they thought was just okay and wanted to see if maybe he was just really nervous. And the second time around, if he was better in person, or if they had a good meeting at the combine and they're like, we don't know what these other GMs are talking about. Because again, no one put their name on it like they never do. Sources this and sources that. Yada, yada. So anyway, I always take that stuff with a grain of salt. It's the same thing with Shedeur Sanders. Like, people never gave a single reason. Just everyone wants to kind of pile on people for no reason. So whatever. Anyway, let's talk about Makai Lemon. This is what you have to know about him. He is 5'11", 192 pounds. He's from California, went to USC. His stats for the 2025 season, he had 79 receptions for 1,156 yards, including 11 touchdowns, and his reception average was 14.6 yards per catch. His hands are 8 3/4, which are much smaller than Carnell Tate, who we were just talking about, who has over 10-inch hands. Makai Lemon is only in the 21st percentile, and his arms are 30.5 inches, which is only 22 percentile. So again, on the smaller side, still 5'11", but I know some people are like really big on the numbers and the measurables. Like, we've heard this about, what's his face? Ruben Bain. Ruben Bain has short arms, and like, someone is not going to draft him because he has short arms, but it didn't seem like it impacted his play throughout college. So, everyone has different things on which they're kind of hung up on and whether or not they think the measurements are important. I don't know if that's going to be extremely important for Makai Lemon. He's not going to be the 5th overall pick like Carnell Tate could potentially be. I don't really think that it's because he has smaller hands, but you never know. Anyway, some things to need to know, some strengths about him. Wins jump balls. He has no business winning at someone who is only 5'11", and I say only in the sense of football related here. He went 10 for 15 on contested catches as a junior. He's great at attacking the ball at its peak and ripping it away from taller defenders. His hands are extremely impressive, even though they are on the smaller side. He had 3 drops on 175 targets over 2 seasons. Quarterbacks obviously trust him in traffic because he's earned that, and he wins the jump ball, and he's great at contested catches. He understands leverage at the line better than some NFL vets. Watch him work corners out of position before his break, and you see a technician. I have seen some very impressive route running skills from Makai Lemon. Now, the thing about Makai Lemon, though, in regards to the Giants is that, again, they're not taking him at 5. So is he someone that they look at 37 potentially? Do they think about trading back from 5 to like 20 and maybe getting him there? I don't really see that happening, but they met with him twice, which is why I think it's important that we talk about him a little bit. So last thing is he's excellent at ball tracking. He adjusts his path mid-route and times his hands perfectly, especially on the deep ball where timing is everything. We have seen this. If you've watched Giants games, you have seen the timing on some of our wide receivers has not been all that great. And part of it is on the wide receiver, part of it is on the quarterback. But for you to be able to adjust your path, no matter what the quarterback is throwing your way, and be able to catch those deep balls is an impressive trait to have. So again, a lot of good things about Makai Lemon. The only real negative to me that I have seen is the fact that his hands are a little bit smaller and this whole BS with the combine interview. But again, no one said anything. So like, I take it with a grain of salt. Lastly, we got to talk about Arvell Reese because he is another player that the Giants met with on multiple occasions. So the first time they met with him was during the pro day, and then they also had a top 30 visit with him. So again, twice that they met him. They did not meet him at the combine, so there are no quotes from him specifically on his interview with the Giants, not that I have seen, but obviously he met with them twice. He is on their record. Let's talk through it. He is 6'4", 241 pounds, from Ohio, went to Ohio State. He had 6.5 sacks last year, 69 tackles, 34 of which were solo. His hands are 9.5 inches, which is 44 percentile, and then his arms are 32.5, which is 54 percentile. His 40 time, though, is pretty good. He ran a 4.46. So I think there's a lot to like about Arvell Reese. He is versatile, similar to, a Micah Parsons or even a Abdul Carter. Now, we know so much that Joe Schoen loves the edge position. This is a premium position. He likes to spend money on them. He likes to draft them high. But in my opinion, even if they trade Kayvon Thibodeau, I just don't see them picking Arvell Reese number 5 overall. It's kind of the same way I feel about the wide receiver. Like, they just drafted Malik Neighbors 2 years ago, number 6 overall. And then last year they drafted, Abdul Carter, number 3 overall, after 3 years prior drafting Kayvon, number 5 overall. So, I just would be surprised if they take Arvell Reese. But again, in case they do, let's talk about what you need to know. Number 1, his pass rush upside is unreal. He has an explosive first step. He can win with speed around the corner, and his length creates problem for tackles trying to set. He does have long arms and excellent hand usage, which are helping him to keep blockers out of his pads and work through trash towards the football. He had high-end production in 2025 against top competition. His tape against Michigan and other Big Ten powers holds up on repeat viewings. Now, I have not specifically watched this. Again, those are from NFL Draft Buzz, but if you know anything about Big Ten or know anything about college football, you know that not only is Michigan and Ohio State very good every single year, that they are rivals, who those games are like watching a Giants versus Eagles game back in the day. And even now, we're like, the rivalry is still a little chippy. Oh, you want to watch a good football game? Watch those two because it's all sorts of crazy. So again, the fact that someone like Arvell Reese can produce time and time again against a team like Michigan and other Big Ten rivals, very impressive. And like we always hear from Joe Shane, is if you can do that in college, it'll transfer to the NFL level. He's also an elite run defender who diagnoses plays at lightning speed and triggers downhill faster than anyone else on the field. And this is what I like about him, is that versatility aspect, right? Is we have talked so much about the fact that Harbaugh and Shane say over and over again, we're going to run the ball and we're going to stop the run. Well, you need people who know how to tackle, okay? And you need someone who's going to be able to stop the run. And Arvell Reese is one of those guys. So that is obviously big time upside for him. He has excellent sideline to sideline speed. He's got a closing burst that catches ball carriers off guard before they can react to his pursuit angle. He tackles with authority, very rarely whiffs on tackles, which music to my ears. He missed 4 tackles in 2025. Only 4. On nearly 70 stops, which speaks to his technique and finish. Guy's unreal. One more bullet point that I like coming out of NFL Draft Buzz here is that his power at the point of attack is legit. He can jolt 300-pound linemen backward and hold his ground without getting washed out. This is something that I feel like we've seen. We obviously know Dexter Lawrence can bully people, but he weighs a lot more than someone like Arvell Reese. But I feel like we've seen this done pretty well from Brian Burns. And he's been able to just bully people and get to the quarterback. And I think this has been a lot of our complaints about Kayvon, is that he doesn't really win those one-on-one battles. And Arvell Reese is obviously capable of doing that. So, he would be a great addition to the Giants. If they traded Kayvon too, I just think it would be insane for them to have a 5th overall pick in Kayvon, a 3rd overall pick in Abdul Carter, traded and spent over $25 million a year on Brian Burns, and then you're going to pick Arvell Reese, number 5th overall. Like that is insane. If everyone else on the rest of our defense was set, then by all means, great. But this is like drafting Arvell Reese would be, that's like the icing on the cake, right? And we're just not in that position to do that. So I'd be surprised if they drafted Arvell Reese. I think he's a fantastic football player. I think having a new defensive coordinator who'd be able to kind of rotate these guys in and hopefully do a lot with their versatility sounds amazing. But I'm like, we have Carter, we have Burns, we have Thibodeau. Like, let's focus on those guys first, maybe get a D tackle next to Dexter Lawrence. And then, maybe next year we can think about another edge, top 10 overall or something like that, which hopefully we're not picking top 10 next year, but it's the Giants. So anyway, that's where we're at with the top 30 visits. We're going to continue to be in draft mode for the next few weeks. So stay tuned for a whole lot more.